how are men down here in this last crisis going to show who they worship? They will show by this. Whom do they obey? That's it. Now, who are you going to obey, my friends? Are you going to obey Jesus or the dragon? That's the question. That's the issue. The issue is over the keeping of God's commandments or the commandments of men. Now, in the 15th chapter of Matthew, Jesus points out what he says is vain worship. Even though men may claim to worship Christ, even though they may take his name upon their lips, he tells us what vain worship is. Matthew 15, verse 9. But in vain they do worship me, teaching for doctrines the commandments of men. Think of it, friends. Now Jesus says here's some people that claim to worship who? Worship Jesus. Worship me. They bear the name of Christian then. They don't say they worship Buddha. No. They don't claim Confucius or Muhammad as their great leader. They claim to worship whom? Jesus. But Jesus says, in vain they do worship me. What? Teaching for doctrines the commandments of men. Now you watch that point. Jesus does not accept that kind of worship. He says it's vain, empty, valueless. It can't be accepted. He can't put his seal on it. No. It's vain worship. Do you see then that no matter how much men may sing about Christ, and talk about Christ, and preach about Christ, no matter how often they may repeat that name in prayer, until it rolls almost as a monotonous repetition, Jesus says it's all vain worship if they teach for doctrines the commandments of men. Oh, that message might go to every professed Christian heart, my friend. He says, why call ye me Lord, Lord, and do not the things which I say? The issue, the test is this: will men keep them? Now, apparently from this, the commandments of God and the commandments of men are in conflict. And that's the problem, my friends. This demon inspiration that has pervaded the great systems of the governments of earth and false religion down through the ages, this demon inspiration is determined to substitute the commandments of men, inspired of the devil, for the commandments of God. The issue then is right here. It's over the law of God, my friends. That's the issue. Will men keep those 10 commandments written on the stone by the finger of Christ himself? Or will they lay those aside and turn to the commandments of men? Now, it's an interesting thing, friends, that practically every church in the world, practically every system of religion in the world is doing exactly what Jesus said here, teaching for doctrine the commandments of men. Do you think it important that every person who expects to stand with Christ in the last battle review his life and teaching and practice and know for sure that everything he believes and everything he does is based upon a "thus saith the Lord" as found in the Bible instead of the traditions and precepts of men? Do you think it important in the light of this? It certainly is. And I think, friends, that we ought to take that right to our own hearts, every one of us personally. It's not enough to accept truth, even though it be true, merely because human precept or tradition passes it on to us. God invites us, He urges us, He commands us to search the Scriptures, because they are the ones, they are the writings that testify of Him and give us His holy law and the instruction that we need to guide us through.